I guess you could say I lived with this silent fear my whole life of like, maybe everyone's right. Maybe I really am just too fucking much. Okay, so what the fuck? This is our first date. How exciting. And even if you know me or you think you know me because you've read all of my books or you've followed me for years and you've seen every piece of social media content and you've read every essay of mine, I've never made anything as intimate as this before. There is no one else in the room except for me and you. I'm independently producing my own brand spanking fucking new podcast, The Florence Given Show. Welcome. I'm your host, Florence Given. And this is going to be a bit of like our first date. I'm going to talk about myself. We're going to get to know each other, right? Because like I said, I've never really done anything like this. Even when I did have a podcast before, some of you will know I used to have a podcast. And you've been asking me for so long, like, when's the new season coming out? I don't own that podcast. So even if I wanted to, like, just upload something, I couldn't. I created it with a production company. And one of the reasons I'm starting the Florence Given Show is because I need to own my channel to you. I don't want to have to ask permission from someone to go into a studio to then record something. I want to just grab my pink fucking microphone and talk to you whenever I want, because there is nothing more precious for me than that connection and being able to broadcast myself and broadcast my ideas whenever I want to. For me, and what I've learned through the process of doing that first show is that it's almost like being a painter and someone else has your paintbrushes and they've locked them up and you need to go and ask them for the key to go and use your paintbrushes. I've learned a lot about my creativity through that process, and I need to do everything from my bedroom. I've accomplished so much in my career, and I've done so many big things, and I will continue to do enormous things. But the more I start to stray away from just making magic in my bedroom, the less potent and pure the magic feels. And I'm not saying I'm not going to have a nice fucking gorgeous studio of my own one day, you know? But I've learned a lot about my creativity, and I need the keys. I need to do this show my way. And so welcome to the Florence Given Show. This is our first date and we're going to get to know each other. I promise not to overshare. I want to view this as like a process of literally like dating, where you don't tell everyone everything on the first date, you know, because I want to tell you everything and I want to just like share myself with you. But we have an abundance of time now because I have my own fucking podcast. Okay, so a few weeks ago, one of my followers messaged me on Instagram and said, so what do you do? Isn't that so funny? She just was like, I love your videos, Florence, but what do you do? And I thought I'd start there. Who the fuck am I? Who is Florence Given? Who is she? So I'm an author, but that's so boring. That's such a boring answer because I'm so much more than that. I much prefer to say I am an exquisitely dressed woman who is paid handsomely for her thoughts and opinions that shift culture. it so good? I actually said this to a woman in LA recently. When she asked me, what do you do? I said, I'm a woman who's paid handsomely for her thoughts and opinions. And her jaw was on the fucking floor. You can take it, okay? You take it as your affirmation for whatever you're doing. It's so iconic and cunty. It's so cunty. So yeah, I have written and published 3 best-selling books. All 3 of them are bestsellers, but one of them, my first book, Women Don't Owe You Pretty, that book broke a world record. I published it when I was 21, which is crazy. And I will never, like, people say to me today, like, what the fuck? You wrote your first book at 20? And I'm like, yeah, fucking hell, I know. She was crazy. I was crazy. And I'm so grateful to that audacious version of myself that thought, fuck it, I'm going to write a book about feminism at 20. I have her to thank for so much of the success in my career, honestly. So yeah, Women Don't Owe You Pretty. It broke a world record, making me the youngest person to ever stay at the top of the bestsellers list for over 3 months. I couldn't even comprehend that level of success when it was happening to me. My publishers were just emailing me every week, like, another one, another week, you're on it again, you're on it again. And it was during the pandemic that I published it. And I was just completely numb to it. I was just like, wow, I guess that's good. I guess that's good. I guess that's good. Because I didn't write the book to get on the bestsellers list. I wrote the book because I needed to make a big statement about my values in the world. And I love writing and I love connecting with women and I love making women feel amazing. That's why I do everything that I do. So we can get onto the rest of my career as a writer, but that's what I do. I am an author. I am a writer. I am a content creator. I am a fashion designer. You haven't seen any of my fashion designs. I went to fashion school when I was 18 and I've been designing clothing since then, but I've been waiting to find the perfect team because these things take time. Taste and understanding your own je ne sais quoi, that shit takes time. And I'm finally at the stage where I'm producing some stuff, as well as my daisy rings, which I'm sure you've seen on my Instagram. These have been in production for over a year. And I've had some issues with manufacturers and people lying to me about stuff. And anyway, when I do things, it's done with romance and integrity. So it's taken me a while to find the perfect people for this, but I'm a fashion designer. I'm a jewelry designer. I've been making jewelry since I was 16 years old, like actually making jewelry with my hands, which I'm not doing for this collection that I'll be launching, but I did used to make jewelry with my hands and sell it at school. I also fully illustrate all of my books. So if you've read my books before, Women Don't Owe You Pretty and Women Living Deliciously, I fully illustrated them. So the font, everything is by me, which not a lot of people know. Again, because I do so many things. I've basically created a career for myself where I've taken my passions so seriously. I would say that that's what I've done, and that's the career I've carved out for myself, is one that I'm completely obsessed with. It cannot even be defined what I do, because it's just different mediums of expression of me and my philosophy and my life and my values. So yeah, I've really built a delicious, fruitful, gorgeous life for myself from following my passions, relentlessly pursuing them, and valuing my unique self-expression over what people think about it. That's the only way I published a book at 20 about feminism. Oh, honestly, it's so iconic. Who the fuck does she think she is? Oh, I love being a brave cunt. I love being a brave cunt. I get off on it. I get off on sort of testing the limits of what other people think is possible. You know, if you'd have told me at 16, in 4 years, you are going to write a book that breaks a record and shifts the paradigm for women and the way they view themselves, I would have called you a fucking liar. You know? Crazy. So yeah, that's what I do. That's the list of things that I do. I guess I realized, or perhaps I just sort of knew from a very young age, that you don't get a second chance to be you. And so I've always just been so myself. The cameras are rolling, you're on the stage, and one day that curtain is going to close on you. And you'll no longer have the chance to be you again. And so I've just relentlessly pursued everything I love because there's no one else like me. Just like there's no one else like you. I've never questioned my own taste. I've never questioned it. You know, I'll ask friends, what do you think about this? You know, when it comes to my writing, you know, I have editors and I ask for people's opinions all the time. But ultimately, me asking for other people's opinions is just this weird little dance that I do before eventually just choosing the thing that I fucking want. You know, it's never this, I'm never really outsourcing my opinion. I'm sort of like using other people's preferences to understand my own, I guess. You know, I've always been very audacious. You know, I just told you I wrote a book about feminism and giving advice at 20 years old because I'm an old soul. This is not my first time here. I think I must have been here 1,000 years or something, because I've just always spoken like this. And I don't know where the wisdom comes from. You know, I could tell you that I write a lot, that I read a lot of books, but that can't explain it, because it's from something else and somewhere else beautiful. And I quite like the mystery of not knowing where it comes from. I think it's beautiful to not have all of life's answers, which we never will. But anyway, so I've always been very audacious. But last year, I really took it up a fucking notch because I just sort of realized if I only get to be Florence Given once, then why don't I really, really be her? Like, why don't I really fucking be her? Why don't I push through the shame I feel for who the fuck I am and just wear all of my wild expressive parts out loud? Why don't I really fucking be her? And even as I'm saying this now, I think that's my entire philosophy. Pretty much summarized up. Because if you only get to be you once, yeah, this lifetime, because whether you believe in past lives and like afterlife or not, even if you have another life after this, you only get to be you once. I thought I was always going full throttle with my self-expression, but that didn't really kick in until a couple years ago when I healed my shame around my enthusiasm for life. I was so embarrassed about my enthusiasm. I guess I've always sort of sensed that other people can be uncomfortable around my vibrancy. And I used to think, you know, I've been called too much my whole fucking life. A group of girls that I was friends with once cornered me to tell me that I was too much, like a meeting. And obviously I was never friends with them again. And it was really heartbreaking for me because I felt so weird and strange. And then my boyfriend at the time, you know, I would get excited and passionate and I would talk about things and it would make him feel so small that he would ignore me. And I eventually learned not to express myself around him ever. I guess you could say I lived with this silent fear my whole life of like, maybe everyone's right. Maybe I really am just too fucking much. Because enough people had told me it, you know? Enough people, especially women, had told me that I was too much. And a couple years ago, I just said, fuck that. This role that I get to play, that my soul gets to play in this body, I might as well really be her. I might as well be my most wild, unbridled, joyful, authentic, romantic, messy, unique self. I might as well fucking go for it. I might as well go full throttle. And that's what I want this podcast to do for you. I want this podcast to be a reminder and like a kick up the bum that you should be too much. You should embrace the parts of you that you maybe fear, make other people uncomfortable when it comes to your self-expression, because most of the time, that's the thing. That's your power. I just can't fathom being mediocre, you know? I can't fathom half-arsing anything, especially half-arsing being me. I don't want to do it anymore. Anytime I've tried to half-arse and sort of dilute myself and shrink and sort of placate to other people's idea of me, I just get so depressed and I get so low and I just can't do it anymore. I refuse mediocrity. I refuse it with every fiber of my being. And even if that means, you know, some people think I'm embarrassing or some people do think I'm too much, I accept that. I accept that I'm not for everyone, and I accept that some people are going to think, gosh, she's doing too much. She is too much. She talks too much. She is too much. She is too much, right? I'm embracing it. Like, I don't... Little club beat. She is too much. She thinks too much. She talks too much. She is too much. I embrace it. The only way that I know I'm going hard enough is if people are saying, who does she think she is? And I would say over the last few years that I've learned that my too muchness is exactly where my fucking power is. And that the women who have sort of enforced this cage of shame over me and tried to say that I'm cringy or that I'm too much or whatever, they just want me to feel as small as them. Yeah? Because women all exist under patriarchy, and we're all taught that those parts of ourselves are unladylike, they're embarrassing, and they are unsafe. It's unsafe for women to be fully embodied and fully themselves. Yeah? I think we need to hear from more women who are full of themselves. And I am so full of me. I think that's why I'm quite triggering, I've noticed, to some people, is because it's quite jarring to see a woman that lets herself know she's fucking amazing, you know? I'm done like being humble. I'm done pretending that I'm not who the fuck I am. And we need to hear from women who are full of themselves, because my whole life I was full of other people. My whole life I put everyone else before me and everyone else's preferences. But I got this feeling that I could do a lot more. I've always had this feeling in life that I was still playing it fucking safe. And I got sick of it. I got sick of playing it safe. I got sick of watching myself squander my potential because I didn't have the courage. I was just sort of done with feeling like a coward, you know? If I only get to be Florence Given once, I'm not going to hold back. I'm not going to dilute myself. I'm not going to make myself smaller. I'm not going to shroud my opinions in disclaimers and disclaimers and disclaimers and disclaimers, you know? So yeah, this podcast is a reminder that you can be as ridiculously yourself. Yeah, whether that's really fucking introverted or you're a big extrovert, just being you, right? And not being the woman. There are so many women that I want to be, but at the end of the day, I can only really be me. There are so many, like, I want to be this glamorous woman that always gets like drunk and smokes cigarettes and goes to these glamorous Hollywood events. Like, I love the idea of being that woman, but it's not me. I much prefer getting an early night, going to sleep, waking up in the morning, convening with my creative gods and creating things. The sound of that sentence would have bored younger me to death, but it's who I am and I'm done fighting it. And there might be a time in my life where like I want to go out a bit more, but I don't. right? I need to just really, 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 really be me in this lifetime. And my main goal with all of my work, whether it is my books or my podcast or my social media content, whatever it is to give other people permission to be themselves. That's what I'm here to do. I just know that that's what my soul is here to do. And I've known it from a very young age that I am here to become as fuckless as possible, to not give any fucks, and to just embody a woman that has overcome this good girl training to not give a fuck. You know, I don't care if I'm not for everyone anymore. Audacity is contagious. And I think we need to hear from more women who don't give a fuck. And I mean, truly don't give a fuck. Because I used to think that that was me. I used to think that Floss, that's me, by the way. That's my nickname, Floss. Some people call me Florence. Some people call me Floss. You can choose. But younger Floss used to think that she didn't give a fuck, but I was still trying to be good enough for other women. I wanted women's approval. So yeah, who the fuck am I? That was such a long answer, wasn't it? Oh my God, I must warn you, there is no one here to tell me to wrap it up. I really could talk for so long. Okay, so yeah, I have all of these accomplishments. I've written 3 books. I'm always going to be writing a book. I'm always writing a book. If you're ever wondering what I'm doing, I'm probably writing a book. I'm always writing a book. I'm writing a book. I'm creating something. I'm someone that doesn't really talk about what I'm doing publicly on social media until it's done. And I would give that way of being a lot of credit as to why I've been able to achieve so much is because I do move in silence. I do move quietly. And then I sort of let people know once something has, you know, once I feel like it's mine and I'm like halfway through something, you know. So yeah, I'm pretty much always writing a fucking book. I love writing books. I also wrote a novel, which so many people don't know. Some guy messaged me the other day and was like, wait, you wrote a fucking novel? And yeah, I wrote a fucking novel. And it's hilarious and amazing and brilliant. I write books that I am obsessed with. I am my own target audience. And so the natural byproduct of that is that I'm completely obsessed with my own work. Honestly, I cannot imagine putting something out there that I don't like, you know? And this isn't even me, like, what's the word? Like flexing how much I like my work. It's just completely nonsensical to me, the idea of publishing or releasing something that I am not obsessed with, you know? I don't really have a target audience. My target audience is me. So the natural byproduct of that is that I think everything I publish is fucking amazing. And you know what? I might cringe at it 5 years later, but that's a sign of my growth. I never, ever regret publishing anything. I got so many people asking me, did you regret publishing a book at 20? I don't agree with everything that I said in that book. I've grown so much as a person now where I'm like, oh, no. Like I wrote so much about men in my first book, in Women Don't Know You Pretty. And my life is so decentered from men now that I've sort of evolved past even needing to talk about men. And I much prefer to sort of focus on helping women cultivate a lust for their life that is so potent and deep that men aren't even the center of it. They're just not getting any of their attention. So yeah, I have all of these accomplishments. But at the heart of it, I'm just a girl making magic in a fucking room. And that's why I wanted to start the Florence Given show, is because previously when I did my last podcast, it was with a production company and I don't even own the show. And any time where I sort of pull myself away from my room and from me being the first sort of source of my creations, the magic dwindles. The magic always starts in my bedroom. And my room changes. You know, I've just moved to Los Angeles. So the magic isn't in the room, it's in me. My magic is portable. I'm very good now at knowing what I need to create my magic. You know, even with this podcast, I have had to train my magic to land in this spot that I'm currently sat in, almost like a plane, you know, like an airplane needs its spot to land. It knows where it can land. It's the same with my creativity. So sitting in the same spot every day, it's like I'm telling myself the magic happens here. And so the magic is always in me. And the external environment doesn't matter. It's always in me. You know, the idea that there's a perfect writing spot or this or that, it's all fake. It's all fake, which is another philosophy of mine. Everything is fake, but we'll get into that in another episode. But yeah, it's very important to me that I own the channel between me and you. One of the other main reasons as well that I've decided to produce a podcast is because I hate that the only place you can access me and my frequency and my energy is on social media. Because the way that social media works is that a video I'm sharing could land on your Instagram feed, sandwiched between like a post of your ex who's just got married and some horrendous global crisis. That shit fucks up your nervous system so much. Also, you know, the way that most people interact with social media is like when they're bored or like when they're on the toilet or something. And I like, and that's fine, whatever. But I like the idea that people choose to tap into my frequency. I want this to be a very intentional space that you come to feel good. You know? I want you to feel good when you come here. And I want you to choose to sort of tap into the Florence Given show as a choice. And social media is I just hate that, you know, stuff I share will be shoved on a feed between other stuff that's just completely frying your nervous system. It's so fucking weird because we all go to like the same place to find news, celebrity updates, music releases. What the fuck? I've had these feelings for so long, and I've been thinking of my game plan here. And the obvious answer is to start a fucking podcast so we can all hang out. Because I won't stop broadcasting myself. Not only do I enjoy it, but the world needs it. The world needs it. The world needs it. But I want to do it in a space that's more intentional. And I want to connect with you. I want to own my channel to you. I also love the idea that you can just listen to me while you're cooking and we can hang out. And whenever you're thinking like, oh, I need a motivational pep talk, you can go onto my podcast and there will be a pep talk from me for you. I'm going to make so many pep talks. I've already recorded 10, which is how I do most of my things. I've said this before, but whenever I write a book, I don't start writing from chapter 1. That's too frightening. That's horrendous. I cannot ever write the first sentence of my books. I'm not doing it. I start at like chapter 5, chapter 3, right? Way less pressure. You just get the ball rolling. Start with something you're excited to talk about. And then you can go back to chapter 1. And that's what I've done with this podcast. I've already recorded like 10 different episodes. And this is me recording the intro one, which I was right. This one has been the hardest to do. I've tried to record this like 5 times. I don't know. Something about it feels like, I guess I've got first date jitters with you. Okay. So yeah, I think that's everything that you need to know for now about what I do and who I am. I'm an author. I'm a writer. I'm a woman who's paid handsomely for her thoughts and opinions. Someone once asked me, what's my 5-year plan? And I said instantly, without hesitating, I said, pulling looks and writing books. And honestly, I think that that's my lifelong plan. I used to have that in my Instagram bio. Maybe I should put it back in. Pulling looks and writing books. Because honestly, I still can't summarize myself, but I'm okay with that. I like being a bit of a mystery, you know? I like that that some people come to my Instagram page and are like, what the fuck is this woman? Who is she? I kind of like it, you know? I'm an experience. That's what the fuck I am. The Florence Given experience. Okay, so now we're going to start the part of our date where you actually get to ask me questions. My assistant has pulled together some of the questions that you've sent in for our first date. You didn't know it was going to be for the podcast. I just put a little Q&A box on my story, but because I didn't want to announce it yet, remember? She moves in silence or whatever. Okay, so what were you like as a child, and at what age did you decide to rule the world? Okay, I'm going to tell you 2 stories so that you can understand the kind of fucking child I was. Story number 1, I grew up in a house with a leopard print sofa and portraits of naked women on the walls. That is the house that I grew up in. Pink wallpaper, leopard print sofa, and nude black and white portraits of women in the 1920s with their tits out. So that kind of explains a lot about me. And how you get a woman like me is my mum had exceptional fucking taste. She was obsessed with like Biba, you know, the brand Biba, B-I-B-A. And so I've always had this little cunty je ne sais quoi because of my mum. And I think that explains a lot about me. And as a child, I was very self-expressive, you know, like I would go breakdancing while my mum was like shopping in Zara. I would just be in the middle of the floor, spinning one out, breakdancing in the middle of the floor with a fucking tutu on. I would go to school dressed up like Lady Gaga. I worshipped Lady Gaga. Like, I would cry at her performances when she was on MTV. Just something about her has always empowered me. So yeah, I was always very self-expressive, but then I sort of lost my spark when I went to secondary school. So secondary school is like when you're 12 years old, 11 years old. And I got into a grammar school. I took my 11 plus, which is a test that you take at 11 to get into a really good school without having to pay any money, which is why I have this accent, because neither of my parents sound like this. The reason I have this very posh accent, I think, is because I went to a grammar school. So yeah, I went to a grammar school, and I think that's definitely where, you know, the desire to like fit in and belong sort of crushed my spark a bit, but then I found it again. I'll never forget, on my first day of school, I made friends with a girl because I went up to her and I was like, I'm Florence Given and I love Twilight. And she wouldn't stop taking the piss out of me for it for our entire friendship for like 5 years. You know, one of my favorite hobbies as a child was to sit on the porch in the rain and read Twilight books. I was living deliciously. I was romanticizing the shit out of life when I was a teenager. And then when I went through my like bohemian phase, you know, I was like listening to the Black Keys, burning Nag Champa incense, staring at the sunsets, dreaming of being in California. Always dreamed of being in California. I've always found a way to create beautiful little moments in life. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. And one of the most important stories that I think you need to sort of hear to really understand me as a child is that when I was 11 years old, I really wanted a laptop, okay? But there was no way in hell my parents were going to just buy me a laptop, okay? So I got £2 a week of pocket money, and I went to Tesco, which is just like a grocery shop in the UK. I went to this grocery shop in the UK and I saw that a chewing gum company were running a competition to win Beyonce tickets, okay? So the way that you entered the competition was that you needed to buy 5 packets of chewing gum, use them all, and send the empty packets of chewing gum in a postal letter to the headquarters of this chewing gum brand. Okay. And that's how you enter the competition to win Beyonce tickets. And so I'm 11 years old and I save up £2 a week of pocket money every week to buy 5 packets of chewing gum. I empty out the chewing gum. I get this envelope from the shop, write the address on it, and I send it to Trident Chewing Gum. It was Trident Chewing Gum. And I win the fucking Beyonce tickets at 11 years old, okay? But there was no way in hell my parents were going to take me to London to just see Beyonce. But that was never the plan. I put the tickets on eBay. I sell them for £250. And I ask my dad to drive me to PC World, which is a computer shop, and I buy my first laptop. It was a tiny, 10-inch red Dell mini compact laptop. And I take it home and I start recording videos talking to the camera from my bedroom. Florence knew who she was from a very young age. How fucking iconic is that story? Like, I don't even know how I knew how to do everything. I was just very audacious. So that's me in a nutshell as a child. Okay, what was your first job? Did you always know what you wanted to do? So I've been making money since I was 14 years old. I would make jewelry and sell it to women on the street, in my school. I would make cakes and sell them on the playground. I've always loved making money because money for me is freedom. And I always knew I wanted to travel the world and taste as much of life as possible. And I knew that I needed money to do that. And so when I was very young, when I was 14, I would make jewelry in my bedroom. Beautiful fucking jewelry. I would make tassels. I would save up my money to go and buy like embroidery tassels or like yarn. And I would make the tassels from scratch in my bedroom, hang them on earrings, buy little bits from eBay of like jewelry making bits. And I would make jewelry and I would sell it for cash. And I would just be wearing my jewelry all the time. And if a woman complimented me on it, I'd be like, I can make some for you, £20. And she would just give me 20 quid and I would make her some jewelry. And I would like custom make it and everything. And I made an Instagram page. I did all of this before 16. And that was the first way that I made money, where I could create something and I exchanged it for money. But then I got my first proper job when I was 16. And as soon as I could legally get a job, I got a fucking job. And I applied for so many jobs in town. I remember when my dream was to work at Topshop. My dream, because all the girls in Topshop, they were the it girls, okay? The it girls were the women that worked at Topshop. They were so fucking cool. They were on some different shit, okay? They were on some different shit. They always had the coolest outfits. They were going to all the cool festivals. I was in such awe, always, of the women that worked in Topshop. Oh, maybe it's because my mum worked in Topshop. That's cute. I don't know. But the girls in Topshop, they knew what the fuck was up. And I always wanted to work in Topshop, but I never got my application accepted. And my first job was in Debenhams. So for about 2 years during my GCSEs, which maybe the American equivalent is like the SATs or something. But during my exams at school, I would spend my weekends working in Debenhams, which is a British department store in the UK. And then because of my experience making jewelry, I managed to get a job in a jewelry store, a cute little boutique jewelry store in Plymouth, and also in Totnes, which is this cute little town in the UK. I worked there on the weekends, £7 an hour. And I loved it. I loved it. And then when the shop was quiet, I would just be making jewelry in the shop and then put it up to sell. And if my jewelry sold, I would get a commission, which was like 20% or something. So if I sold a necklace for £20, that was £4 for me. And that was a lot of money. And I wouldn't spend any of it. Any of the money I made, I would save it, while I was living at home with my parents. Between 16 and 18, I was like, I'm not spending any of this. So I saved it all. I worked in a bar. I worked in Prism, okay? I worked in a nightclub as a cocktail waitress in Prism in Plymouth. And I wore this little like black skirt, loved getting my tips, and I wouldn't come home until like 4 a.m. And then I would wake up and go to my second job at the jewelry shop. So sometimes I would be pulling multiple shifts. So I was going to art college during the week, working at the nightclub on the weekends, and then waking up to go work at the jewelry store and pulling double shifts. I just loved making money. It was freedom to me. And I was just like hustling my ass off. And then also, that's when I was posting my art on social media, hoping to grow a career for my ideas. So while that was growing in the background, I was working these other jobs. And then when I moved to London, I went to London College of Fashion and I worked as a waitress again. And then my artwork started taking off, and I could let go of these jobs where I was working for someone, and I could eventually work for myself because I'd saved up money. So those are my normal jobs in a nutshell. Retail, bar staff, working in a nightclub, working in a jewelry store, selling my own t-shirts that I designed, selling my own jewelry. I've just always loved working. It's freedom for me. I love it and it's fun. Okay, on to the next question. Someone's asked, are you an old soul? You're so wise to be so young. Yeah, I must be. I must be an old soul. Because I don't know where it comes from, which is so magical. And, that's not to undermine all of the dedication and the discipline that I've cultivated to be such a highly creative and insightful person, because it is a full-time way of being, I must have just been here loads of times or something. I don't know. We can get onto my spiritual awakening in another episode. This is the first date, okay? Let me not get into the spiritual awakening on episode 1. We can do that for another time. Okay, another question. What's your star sign and do you care? So I'm a Scorpio, which shocks most people. Maybe because I'm so vibrant and I don't know, Scorpios have a rep of being dark and mysterious. I don't know. And to answer the other part of your question, do you care? Not really. I sort of hate labels and anything that tells me who I'm supposed to be. I have this I'm very resistant to authority. And so star signs and all that sort of stuff, which I think is so beautiful. I have astrology apps on my phone, I'm not someone that says it's stupid or anything. That's far from how I feel about astrology. I'm so intrigued by it, so interested by it. But I don't want to let it dictate who I think I am or who I think I'm supposed to be, especially when some stuff doesn't ring true, So yeah, I'm a fucking Scorpio and I just sort of hate rules, Maybe that's a very Scorpio answer. I don't know, but I'm a Scorpio. Okay, another question. Do you ever feel like what you're writing won't make sense to others? All the time. I never truly know if something that I'm saying or sharing or writing is going to land. Everything I sort of share is a big leap of faith. There are some times where I say something in a video and I sort of know in the moment, holy shit, that was crazy. That was good. And I don't know where it came from. And I'm like, fucking hell, that was brilliant. I have so many brilliant ideas and then I have so many shit ones as well. And I don't know if what I'm saying is going to make sense to others, but I think one of the reasons I am so articulate is because I write so much, but also because I have this deep need to be understood. And so I think ever since I was very young, I've always practiced articulation through storytelling. I love getting to translate the vibrant swirlings of crazy ideas in my head through my voice to other people. And I think there are, how some people say, oh, I'm funnier in Spanish because that's their native tongue. For me, I feel like I'm a much more effective communicator through my voice, and my writing is just a different language, when I'm writing something down, I sound a little bit different and the idea comes out different than it would if I was speaking it verbally. And both are very powerful forms of expression for me. But the thing I love about speaking instead of writing is that it's an embodied form of expression. You know, I get to feel it in my body. I can actually feel the resonance of whether or not what I'm saying is authentic or bullshit based on how it feels in my body. I can't always feel that when I'm writing with the pen. Something that Quentin Tarantino said was that the pen is the antenna to God, which I'm obsessed with. He was talking about his writing process and he was saying you can't skip that pen to paper stage of writing. If you just go straight to typing on the laptop, you almost skip a stage. But I think it's brilliant. The pen is the antenna to God. And I do most of my writing on my morning walk. So I walk while I write. I write while I walk. And it does feel quite magical. It does feel like the pen is the antenna to God or like your higher creative power or whatever. Like it's receiving things. That did not answer your question at all. But we're here. Okay, another question. Do you drink coffee? If so, how do you make it? My coffee is always strong. I cannot fathom having a beige drink. It needs to be fudgy brown, at least, or black. So like even when I'm having a coffee with oat milk, or pistachio milk is my new obsession, whatever. It's going to be fudgy brown, like an iced cortado or an iced flat white. But I mostly like my coffee black, especially if you're grinding the beans yourself. It feels like a crime to put milk in it because it's so aromatic and sensual, you know? I also get my best ideas on an empty stomach and with black coffee. I don't know why, but it makes the veil very thin between me and my creative gods. First thing in the morning. You know, you're a little bit hungry. I don't know what happens there, but it's something magical. Okay, another question. What's a misconception about you? That's funny, because that's what I used to ask all of my guests on my podcast. A misconception about me. A lot of people assume that I'm just always happy. And I am most of the time. I am pretty much always like this. But it's funny, it's almost like, you know, the very dark episodes that I've had in my life have made this taste so much juicier. And it's very easy for me to slip into a low period of my life. And so I sort of just built my life and my habits around preserving this vibrant life force inside of me. So like my body can feel when I haven't been writing for a few days. My body can feel when I haven't danced. My mental health feels when I haven't been in nature for very long. And then it sort of declines, you know, slowly. It's like a death by 1,000 cuts. So it takes a lot for me to sort of maintain my life force. And I live my life based around my creativity. I put it first as much as possible and as often as possible. So a misconception about me is people think that maybe I'm like happy all the time, and I'm really not. I'm really not, you know. If you've read my books, you'll know that, you know, there are so many periods where I just like, even just last winter, I couldn't get out of bed. I get really affected by the winter. I just can't afford to live my life where I experience winter anymore. That's one of the main reasons I've moved to Los Angeles. Okay, there are so many questions that I want to answer, but I have spoken for so long. So that's the end of our first date together. And I'm going to be here every single week. I'm going to be doing solo episodes. Most of this is going to be solo episodes. It's just going to be me and you. And it's just going to be me giving you motivational pep talks. I want you to have a motivational pep talk for every single scenario in your life. And they're going to find you exactly when you fucking need it. There is magic in everything I do. There's like a little drop of magic in it. And you're going to feel it. And you're going to be able to tap into my frequency. I'm going to share my journey with building my new fashion brand and my jewelry brand. I'm going to give you snippets into my life in Los Angeles. I'm going to be doing Q&As. Going to be doing some flossy advice and some gossip with floss. I'll be sharing the juicy story and all of the updates about my new life in Los Angeles, and how I moved to LA from London and what that journey has been like for me, why I chose to move here. And I'm going to answer all of your questions. I'm going to fill you in on all the fucking goss. Well, some of the goss. I'm saving most of my stories for my glamorous memoir that I'll write when I'm like 50. Oh, that's going to be so juicy. I love you so much. And I'll see you here the same time next week for our second date, I guess. I love you. Mwah!